Well, the lawsuits are rolling in from Trump's numerous executive orders. Let's go over some of the lawsuits that have already rolled in so far. DOGE is being sued. This is from News Nation. They're saying that a complaint, this is coming from a public interest law firm. They're saying that DOGE panel is breaking a 50-year-old law, the Federal Advisory Committee Act, that requires advisory committees to the executive branch to follow specific rules on disclosure, hiring, and other practices. So they're saying this new government or non-government body is already breaking the rules of a Federal Advisory Committee Act. So they're saying, quote, DOGE is not exempted from FACA's requirements, FACA's requirements, states the lawsuit. Says all meetings of DOGE, including those conducted through an electronic medium, must be open to the public. So anything Elon Musk does when he meets with DOGE, does anything with DOGE, it all has to be recorded and public. It all has to be where we can, request Freedom of Information Act records. All of it has to be actually recorded. So maybe this lawsuit will just put them on notice, and maybe DOGE will do that from now on. Maybe they will make sure that everything is public, that they're, Elon Musk can't just text people under the guise of DOGE, unless he wants his, maybe that's got to be done on a government phone. I'm not really sure. But anyway, they're going after DOGE. They're already saying breaking the rules. More challenges are coming in on transgender stuff. So there's a lot of people that are saying they don't want this. The transgender issues are, they say they don't know yet what exactly the transgender stuff is gonna do, but they're ready to attack the minute it actually has an impact. For example, they're saying that they're looking at the impact in schools and what happens, for instance, to transgender students who are barred from sports teams. Will they attempt to withhold federal education funding for schools that allow trans students to participate? Then there will be immediate litigation on that. They're also saying other areas of concern are like, now there's apparently a directive that biological sex must be recorded on passports and other documents, and they're going to fight that. I mean, why wouldn't it be on your passport or driver's license? Your sex should be on that, right? And I guess the transgender, I didn't, I guess it's gone to the point where they been able to do that? Is it not? I mean, I just assumed that your sex has to be on your passport and driver's license. Has that been changed? Have they gotten that far in this transgender shift that now you could it's optional to say what your sex is on these government documents? Is that where we're at? Okay. So they're already saying, look, we're ready to fight. We're ready to litigate this. The whole notion that the government is only going to acknowledge two sexes. So Trump signed an executive order saying the government now only acknowledges male and female, and that is it. There's nothing other than male or female. And that is just fundamentally true. There are abnormalities, or there's conditions, there's syndromes that people can be affected with that kind of muddy the waters. There are people that are born, for example, with XX, the female chromosomes, but they've got male genitalia. There are people that are born with male chromosomes and female genitalia. There are people that are born with ambiguous genitalia. There's all of these. But I think these days, and a lot of times, especially when a baby is born, and if you see male genitalia, you assume male. But I think these days, doctors, maybe if it's a little small, or it seems it's unclear, maybe it doesn't look quite right, the genitalia of the baby, then maybe I just don't understand why these days a doctor wouldn't just say, all right, we're just going to run a chromosomal test. We'll just run the test and see what we see. I would think that they do that these days. But obviously, if you're older and you didn't have that opportunity when you were younger, or you come from a part of the world where they didn't have that, then your parents, and I think this is where that boxer, what's the name of that? Who is that? Anyway, the boxer that won Olympic gold, right? And I think that the discussion around her is, and I still say her for her, because this individual reportedly was born with male chromosomes, but with female genitalia. There's also been rumors that there's a particular A-list celebrity who's the same. and that she was also born female, but with female genitalia, but actually had male chromosomes, making her unable to reproduce. And that's why the theories are she's adopted her children. And that would be the same for this boxer, that this person is male chromosomally, but born female. When that baby came out and they saw female genitalia, they just said, it's a girl. I mean, that to me is fair enough, right? That's how it's been done forever. So I'm not going to fault the person for being raised female and believing they were female when they were born looking female. I mean, that to me seems fair enough. But that's where things get a little bit muddy. Their chromosomes say that they're male. And this is where the fight, and that to me is the legitimate fight. Now there's just a group of people that are, there's always the people that take it to the extreme, that kind of ruin it for everybody. And they just, because they want to prove a point. So they all sit there and start saying, I'm non-binary. I'm, I gender's a spectrum or whatever. And I'm neither he nor she. And then they start putting the he, she crap on LinkedIn profiles. And, it just gets insane. And it kind of ruins it for the legitimate cases of people that have these medical abnormalities that are not common, but they're also not totally uncommon. I mean, they're seen by the medical community. They're just not totally common. Now, does that mean that the person should be allowed to compete in a boxing ring with women that are chromosomally women? No, I mean, I think unfortunately, look, I wish I was a foot taller and I could have been a supermodel or something. I mean, I'm sure how many men out there that are 5'9" wish they were 6 feet tall. A lot of us have a lot of wishes about our biology, and it just, didn't happen. And so you just have to live with the consequences of that. You can't just say, well, that's not fair, I should still be allowed. Well, no, I mean, it is the way it is. So I don't think a person that has male chromosomes that might develop their bodies differently, or, certain aspects about them might be different, should be allowed to compete in a female sports arena. It just sucks for them. They get excluded from something they love to do. They'll find something else they love to do. That's what happens. I mean, if you're an athlete and you get paralyzed, you have to live with that. I mean, you have to figure that out. One of my best friends in high school was a paralyzed athlete, and she went on to the Paralympics and won silver and bronze in the Olympics different times over. So, you just do what you can do. Anyway, but there's lawsuits that are going to be coming down the pipeline when it comes to the transgender issue. And I do have sympathy for those who are legitimately having those, legitimately have a concern. But I just think the majority are just crazy, and they're making something up in order to stick it to us, kind of a thing. They're just trying to say, well, I'm non-binary, he, she, they, them, whatever, just to kind of, it's just I don't know, just to stick it to us, I feel like, just to prove some kind of a weird point. All right, let's get to the big one. The big lawsuit that's going to be coming down the pipeline is the White House citizenship question. Now, this is the one that everybody's debating. Let's read through the actual executive order, and then we're going to read through some of the common arguments that say Trump will be able to do this. Okay. This one has already been challenged. There's 18 states, maybe more at this point. The lawsuits keep rolling in on this one. So I would expect there's going to be a slew of lawsuits challenging the Trump administration on ending birthright citizenship. That's essentially what he tried to do by executive order. The Constitution is set with the 14th Amendment. You really would have to amend the Constitution, or the Supreme Court would have to interpret the Constitution a little bit differently, which is what the Trump administration is basically pushing. So by signing this executive order, I'm confident Trump did not believe that he was ending birthright citizenship today. I think he knew he was triggering a Supreme Court response and an interpretation, and potentially even, constitutional amendments, which I don't think would pass. I don't think the states would ratify that. But let's go through the language of what this executive order actually says. Protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. So he says, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered, Section 1, purpose. The privilege of United States citizenship is a priceless and profound gift. The 14th Amendment states, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, comma, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. I say the commas because the language matters, and that's what's going to matter when it comes to the Supreme Court. So all persons born or naturalized in the United States, comma, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, and that line right there, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that is the sticking point. This is what is going to be contested by and argued on both sides. It's that one phrase. And subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Because it says, now, if you take that sentence out, all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Like all persons born in the United States are citizens. That would be clear cut. And unless there's laws that clarify that, then it is what it is. But there is this sentence that gets thrown in there, and it's and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So then it goes on to say in this executive order that provision rightly repudiates the Supreme Court of the United States' shameful decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford, which misinterpreted the Constitution as permanently excluding people of African descent from eligibility for United States citizenship solely on their race. So that is when the 14th Amendment was adopted after the Civil War, and it was meant to overturn Dred Scott versus Sanford. And it was to clarify that that slaves were, that they are citizens, and that you cannot, you know, if you brought over a slave and they had a baby in the United States, that's it. They're an American citizen. Dred Scott tried to say that wasn't the case. So that's what the 14th Amendment, the purpose of the 14th Amendment, what they were dealing with, the issue of their day was slavery. And they also, another issue that was brought up when they were debating the 14th Amendment was Native Americans and Indian reservation, Indian territory. So it goes on to say, but the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. This is what the Trump administration is claiming. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who were born in the United States but not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Consistent with this understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national and citizen of the United States at birth, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment text. So again, it all hinges on this subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What does that mean? So let's go on and we'll get into that. But he says, among the categories of individuals born in the United States and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, the privilege of the United States citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States. Right. One, when that person's mother, so this is what he's now trying to define it as, the Trump administration, when that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. Because even if your mother is unlawfully here in the United States, but your dad is an American citizen, and an American guy has a baby with an illegal immigrant here in the United States, that kid is still a U.S. citizen. The dad is a U.S. citizen. That kid's a U.S. citizen. Now, people are pointing out, well, why is this only the mom and not the dad? Why is there this misogynistic language? And it's like, come on, get a freaking clue. Mommy's baby, daddy's maybe, first of all. Secondly, mom is the one birthing the baby. So if mom is an American citizen and mom is birthing a baby, then the baby is an American citizen automatically because mom's an American. And there's no issue there. There's nothing to contest. A woman, an American citizen, could get knocked up by anybody in the world and have a baby actually anywhere in the world and also in the United States. And that kid is an American citizen. There's just nothing there to even discuss. So why they're saying, why is this just a man and not that, okay. Number two, when the person's mother's presence in the United States at the time of said person's birth was lawful. So now she's allowed to be here, but she's not a citizen because it's temporary. So not a permanent resident, not a permanent refugee, not a citizen. They're just here on a visa or here on a waiver program, visiting a student or tourist visa, something like that. They're just here visiting. That is lawful. They're here legally, but they're temporarily here. And the father was also not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States at the time of said person's birth. Then that person cannot be a citizen. That is what they're trying to exclude. Now, the big issue here is you've got a lot of Indians that are part of I guess it's now the waiting list, the line for Indians that are here on work visas, the ones that are here on H-1B visas or something. They're calling it 100-year visa line. It takes 100 years for them. There's so many, they're backlogged, that it's going to take 100 years to get through this line. And so there's a lot of Indians who are living in the United States who've been here for a very, very long time, and they're not American citizens. And they're technically on renewed visa status over and over and over again. Their visa gets renewed and they've applied for green cards. They want to be American citizens. They're building up this country. But the backlog, the bureaucratic backlog, is so long that they can't gain their citizenship. This is saying that those people who are here for 20, 30, 40 years, and they've been applying visa after visa after visa, and they have children here in the United States, and those children are raised here, those children are not, at the time of their birth, if that child was born at the time of their birth, and those parents were not American citizens, and I'll give you two examples, that child has to leave this country at 21 years old or apply for a visa and try to get one themselves. And that child could have known no other country but the United States. That child may have never been to India in their life. They don't know the language. They've never been there. They don't have a single family member there. They don't know anybody there. They've been born and raised in the United States their entire life. And their parents are on this renewed, endless visa carousel because they can't get off of it because the government has so much red tape. That person would be deported at 20. They'd have to leave at 21 years old and go back to where they came from. I mean, they've never been there. And they might be like, they won't even let me in. I mean, there's a possibility that, let's say India says, I mean, we've never seen this person. They were born in America. They've never been here. I mean, they're not ours. Why would we take them? So that is a real concern that the Indian community is bringing up. They're like, wait a minute, there's a lot of us that have been here on these like temporary visas that we've been trying to become citizens. We want to become American citizens, and you people won't let us. And here we are building up this economy. Two examples. Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy's father never became an American citizen, and his mother was not an American citizen at the time of his birth. She later became one, but she wasn't one. It is unclear if his parents were on a visa at the time of his birth, but it's likely. So it is likely that the Vivek born 30 days from now would not be allowed to remain in this country. Same thing with Usha Vance, the second lady of the United States. Her parents were not American citizens at the time of her birth and may have also been on visas. They may have later become American citizens, but they were not at the time of her birth, and therefore she would also have been subject to this new rule, which would have essentially made her leave the country to go back to where she came from at 21 years old, or apply for a visa and try to be on visa status, and then also get in that stupid 100-year line. And this is somebody who's never lived anywhere else, never been anywhere else, and they suddenly are being told, you're not an American citizen. And the American is like, but I've lived here my whole life. I've never been anywhere else. This is where I was born and raised. And they're like, yeah, sorry, you're now in this endless visa carousel, and you're going to be waiting 100 years, which you're not going to live that long. So you're going to die never being an American citizen. And then your kids are going to have the same damn problem unless you find an American citizen and have children with that American citizen. So you can't marry somebody in your community who maybe is in the same boat as you. Like, you can't just marry who you love. You're going to have to marry for bureaucratic reasons in order to secure your children's future. I mean, that really is antithetical to the American way. You know, here you've got a government saying we want to cut the red tape, but we also want to get rid of all these immigrants. We also don't want people. I mean, so how do you deal with that person, that Indian, you know, the Vivek Ramaswamy or the Usha Vance? How do you deal with them? So that's where it gets extremely challenging. When I think there would be more support for this. I understand the reasoning. One of the reasons is, you know, obviously there's we don't want illegals coming into the country, having a baby on American soil, and then they have these anchor babies, and then the baby is here, and then they can sponsor their family members, or their family members can't be deported. I don't think that's true. I mean, my mother was not an American citizen at the time of my birth. actually still isn't. My mom isn't. So, and I could tell you there was never any anchor base. That's not real. Like she could absolutely be deported and they wouldn't give a damn about me, about my American citizenship or my rights as an American. Don't I have the right to have my mom? They're like, no, you can go with her. That's really how the American government deals with it. They're not, there's really this kind of idea that, well, if the baby's here, then America will have this soft heart and let the mom stay. And that's just not the way it is. I'm an American. My dad is an American citizen. I was born to an American citizen on American soil. So this does not pertain to me, but I can sympathize with those that it does. Secondly, I understand that what they're trying to do also, so they're trying to eliminate the anchor baby issue. If your mom was here illegally and had you, so it shouldn't apply to you. I also understand what they're trying to do is end birthright tourism. There's a group of people that come here on tourist visas from Russia, China, India. They're here temporarily. They have babies. Their babies are American citizens. And there's that. But there's another part of this debate. And that is, one of the ways to also that's not being contested in this. And I actually think it's a worse rule. If you're going to go and attack somebody's citizenship, the citizenship you should attack is, and I know my producer's not going to like to hear this, but it's of Americans having babies in foreign countries, raising those kids in foreign countries, and those kids have automatic citizenship to this country without having any ties to this country, any ties or any, you're not building this country, you're not American in any way, and you actually have more allegiance to the country of your birth than this country, and those kids get citizenship. So why is it that we're going after kids that are born on American soil, that at the moment they opened up their eyes, they saw American skies, that every playground they played on was on American soil. The schools they went to were American. They pledged allegiance to America. They grew up around foothills or plains or mountains or beaches, and they smell them and they see them, and it's home for them. And it's America. Why are we going after that group of kids and saying, wow, no, but because your mom was illegal, and even though you've only seen American skies your whole life, and even though all the taxes you've ever paid since the moment you were working at the ice cream shop at 15 years old, and you went to college here in America, and you've got a job here in America, and you've done all these American things, you're just not an American because your mom wasn't American. Why are we going after that kid? And we're not going after all of the American citizen kids that were born everywhere else in the world who've never stepped foot in this country, have no desire to live in this country. They just want the privilege of coming to this country when they feel like it. And they do not smell American air or look at American mountains or beaches or plains and feel home. Why are we going after the kids that live, breathe, and die America? So on one hand, the ethical discussion about who deserves to be an American, really, this is like red meat type, when we're talking about this type of executive order, this is just to fuel the people that are really pissed off about illegal immigration. And that's a lot of people. A lot of us are mad about the crisis at the border, people flooding in and changing America. So I understand this. Well, then we just can't let them have babies here. And then those kids are now Americans. I understand that kind of knee-jerk reaction. But if we actually think about it, if we actually think about who should be an American, shouldn't it be who's here building our country? I mean, shouldn't it be the people who pledge allegiance to America? They love America. This is their country of allegiance. That should be what determines citizenship. It's who do you pledge your allegiance to? When you say home, where is home? That should be it. That's what it should boil down to for these kids. And this is excluding a lot of them. Now, going back to this debate about the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof, this has been interpreted during the time of the debate. And I've actually got a little bit of this debate pulled up of the senators back in 1866 debating this. And this is where you really kind of get to the heart of what they were trying to do. The heart of what they were talking about is when you go back and you actually read the debate. And I spent quite a bit of today reading the numerous various different debates that the Senate had back in 1866. They had numerous, they started these debates in February of 1866. They went on. They finally ended up passing, they did several amendments, several additions to the amendment, language changes, and then they finally ultimately ended up passing, and then it was ratified by the states. When they were talking about the subject, the jurisdiction thereof, people bring this up all the time. Let me get to the part of the debate that people really hang on. And they say, in the 1866 congressional record, comments of the senator who wrote the bill said, quote, "This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States." So that is that is partially the sentence. But there was, however, more to this. And then, of course, today, as I was reading this, and I tried to get, let me just see if I can find the full quote on this. But what people are saying is, see, it wasn't ever intended for everybody, because this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person. What they specified, this is from Senator Jacob Howard during the 1866 congressional debate, and what he was specifying was, and they were very clear on this in the context of this debate, that this had to do with ambassadors, that this was people who were subjects of a foreign country. And you have to get back to the language of subject versus citizen. This was, they were trying to get away from English subjects, but yet there still were subjects of foreign countries. America has a citizenship, an idea of citizenship rather than subjects. And so they were saying, look, if we've got subjects of a different country who have allegiance to a different country, and they're on our soil, and they're here, and they're foreign ministers that have been allowed to come here, accredited to the government of the United States, but they're not under our jurisdiction. They are under this jurisdiction of whichever nation they are a subject of. They are not, when they have children here in the United States, those children are not American citizens, because those are subjects of a foreign country. The debate hinges on that, because they were very clear in their debate. At that time, you have to remember, there was no such thing as illegal immigration. In 1866 and 1868, when this 14th Amendment was ratified, we had open borders in the United States. It was totally open borders. The concept of closing the borders didn't happen until a little bit later than that. They were really worried about the Chinese coming in, and they harped about the Chinese kind of endlessly. But at that time, this wasn't an issue. So when they were talking about under a different sub jurisdiction, they're talking very specifically about foreign dignitaries that are here, whether they be visiting, and they were specific about that they had 4 in the debate. Like I said, I wish I could find, but then again, you don't want to sit here and have me read 25 pages of this debate to you. You could just find it online if you can. I mean, it's hard to find, but they were very specific, and they said there's four ways that somebody would qualify under this. They're subject of a different country. One, if they're here and they're an ambassador, they're a subject of a different nation and they're here as an ambassador. 2, if they're on a ship, if they're on a foreign ship, then they're not, that doesn't make that also qualifies. Also, if it's a hostile foreign invasion. So if a country has invaded our land and it's a hostile invasion, and they have children on our land and it's a hostile invasion, and this is maybe where the Trump administration is going to try to argue this, then those children are not citizens of this country under a hostile invasion. And the last one was Indian reservations. They're like, well, those are sovereign territory of the Indians. And so natives are, and they had a debate about, well, surely you don't mean Indians when you say children born in the United States. And then the senators were like, well, no, because they're not. And actually they had to clarify this. They said, no, because they're Indian, they're part of their tribe. They're citizens of their tribe. They're not citizens of the country. They're subjects under the jurisdiction of their tribe. So they are not American citizens. And then some senators said, well, but what about those other Indians that we gave land to? Because when they were debating it, they said only the Indians that are not taxed, they're not subject to our taxation. They are not citizens. Their children are not citizens. And then some others said, well, what about the ones that we gave them land and they are subject to tax and they're no longer under the tribes? And that had to be clarified. And they had to debate that. They ultimately did not give the Indians, they still basically asserted Indians as subjects under the jurisdiction of their tribes. That was later changed. There was obviously, there was changes that gave Native Americans citizenship as well. But that's what they were debating at the time. So now what people want to debate is they want to say, well, then subjects under the jurisdiction of, that's what it's going to come down to. And I just don't see how the federal government is going to make the claim that, because very, very clearly the ambassadors of foreign countries and natives that were living at the time on sovereign native land, it's no longer really like that, but at the time, they were not subject to the laws of this country either. And that was a big debate. They were totally immune to American laws, so that they weren't under our jurisdiction. I don't think they're going to make the claim that an illegal that comes into the country is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. It's still the case that foreign ambassadors are not. Embassies in the United States are foreign territory. So I don't think they're going to go to the extent of saying, well, illegals can just commit crime in this country and they're not subject to our laws. I mean, do we really want to have that policy? Do we want to go down that road and say, well, if they came from some other country and they're allowed to like rape women, they can just rape women here, I guess, because they're not subject to our jurisdiction. They're subject to the jurisdiction of where they came from. And so they'll have to punish them. And then that country goes, we don't have a law against that. I mean, are we really going to be all right? That actually derails our sovereignty more than anything, to say they're not subject to our jurisdiction. Are you kidding me? I mean, of course they are. So I don't know how this is going to play out in the Supreme Court, but it will hinge on that one phrase. And the senators went on and on and on about the invasion of the Chinese, of the Mongols, they called us Asians, and they went on and talked about, like, is the child of a gypsy born in Pennsylvania a citizen? If so, what rights have they? Have they any more rights than a sojourner of the United States? If a traveler comes here from Ethiopia, from Australia, or Great Britain, is he entitled to a certain extent to the protection of the laws? You cannot murder him with impunity. It is murder to kill him, the same as it is to kill another man. You cannot commit an assault and battery on him, apprehend him. He has the right to protection of the laws, but he is not a citizen in the ordinary acceptation of the word. It is perfectly clear that the mere fact that a man is born in the country has not heretofore entitled him to the right to exercise political power. So this is interesting in the debate, because they're saying the question of citizenship is not just about your rights. This is what this senator is arguing. And this is Senator Cowan from Michigan, or no, this is Senator Cowan from, I don't know what state he's from, but he was saying, look, somebody could be subject to the protections of the citizens of the United States. So you have the right to not be murdered, to be assaulted. You have these rights being on our American soil. But that doesn't make you a citizen, because citizens have political rights. They have the right to actually to exercise political power. So he's arguing there's got to be boundaries around this. And he says, so as far as the courts and the administration of the laws are concerned, I have supposed that every human being within their jurisdiction was, in one sense of the word, a citizen, that is, a person entitled to protection. But insofar as the right to hold property, particularly the right to acquire title to real estate, was concerned, that was a subject entirely within the control of the states. It has been so considered in the state of Pennsylvania, and aliens and others who acknowledge no allegiance either to the state or to the general government may be limited and circumscribed in that particular. I have supposed further that it was essential to the existence of society itself, and particularly essential to the existence of a free state, that it should have the power not only of declaring who should exercise political power within its boundaries, but that if it were overrun by another and a different race, so this is really kind of the argument. We're going back to 1866. We're like time warping right now. saying if we were overrun by another in a different race, it would have the right to absolutely expel them. I do not know that there is any danger to many of the states in this union, but it is proposed that the people of California people of California, but it's understood that they are a distinct, sorry, no, Calgara. I don't know where Calgara is. Is that somewhere? So he says, but it's understood that they are a distinct people. They never intermingle with any other. They never intermarry with others. I believe there's no instance on record where a Zingara woman has mated with a man of any other race, although it is true that sometimes the males of that race may mate with females of others. But I think there's no case in history where it can be found that a woman of that race, so exclusive as they are and is so strong in their sectional antipathies, has been known to mate with a man of another race. They go on and say the same thing. What about the flood of immigration of the Mongol race? So they're talking about me. The Asians, are they to be immigrated out of house and home by the Chinese? I should not think. It is not supposed that the people of California, in a broad and general sense, have any higher rights than the people of China, that they are in possession of a country of California. And if another people of a different race, of a different religion, of different manners, of different traditions, different tastes and sympathies are to come there and have the free right to locate there and settle among them, and if they have an opportunity of pouring in such an immigration as in a short time will double or treble the population of California, I ask, are the people of California powerless to protect themselves? I do not know that the contingency will ever happen, but it may well to consider it while we were at this point. And he goes on to also say, Asians, they can't assimilate. We Asians, right? Here I am an American-born child of an Asian, and I think I'm pretty damn assimilated into American culture. And I have no allegiance other than to the United States of America. So these arguments that they made then are the same arguments that are made today. And the debate goes on. And so I wanted to showcase that the debate is the same. However, the Supreme Court has already ruled on this. And the Supreme Court case, let me just grab that one real quick. This was a few years after the amendment. And it was United States versus Wong Kim Ark, 1898. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco, California in 1873 to Chinese parents who were subjects of the Emperor of China. So they were not American citizens, but they were lawfully residing in the United States because we had open borders at that time. So after a trip to China, Wong was denied re-entry to the U.S. by immigration officials who argued he was not a citizen due to his parents' foreign status and the Chinese Exclusion Act. And he went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Wong Kim Ark, affirming that the 14th Amendment grants citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil, regardless of the nationality of their parents, except for specific exclusions like children of foreign diplomats. That has been asserted by the Supreme Court. So, this is what they actually are the ones that gave the four. They said, the 14th Amendment affirms the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the territory, in the allegiance and under the protection of the country, including all children here born of resident aliens, with the exception or qualifications of children born of children of foreign sovereigns or their ministers, born on foreign public ships, or of enemies within and during a hostile occupation or part of our territory, of our territory, a hostile occupation of our territory. Those are the exclusions. So this is going to be an interesting battle that the Trump administration is going to take on, because they're going to have to clarify what it means to be under the jurisdiction of a different nation. The Supreme Court upheld and said children are born here and they are residents, and including all children born here of resident aliens. And it doesn't say whether those resident aliens are legal or not. It doesn't say children born of legal resident aliens. It just says resident aliens. So this is going to get contested, and it's going to be interesting. But I would assert that if we are going to change citizenship laws, if we're going to make changes to them, we can't do them with these knee-jerk kind of emotional reactions of, we just don't want these illegals here, because that knee-jerk reaction leads to what you don't want is a system where people who are building America, who are here, who love America, breathe America, bleed America, die America, build America, are not American. And people are American by inheritance. That to me makes less sense, that you could just inherit citizenship because your mom or dad was a citizen. And so therefore you get it just like that. Like, yay, I won the lottery. I just get citizenship, even though I've never set foot in the country. I don't give a damn about America. I can blow to pieces for all I care. It's not really my country. My country's somewhere else. That doesn't make any sense. So we have to make it make sense. And I think that there are no American citizens that are going to want to give up the ability to travel and live abroad, and their children suddenly are not American citizens. I don't see Americans going for that. I think Americans are going to protect the right of American citizens to have children anywhere in the world, and those children be Americans, even though that has been abused. That has been, I would say, that's been abused for sure at times, but it's also been, I met a lot of Vietnamese kids that were half Vietnamese, half white, that were born during the Vietnam War to American soldiers in Vietnam. And they had a hell of a time with the US government treating them as American citizens, trying to get out of Vietnam. That was not treating them well because they were halvesies. Those of us that are half were not treated well. And they wanted to come to America. There was a lot of orphanage organizations, rescue organizations trying to bring them over here, saying they're Americans. They were American soldiers, went and had a great time, had a bunch of children, and those children deserve the right to be in America. And I don't think people want to say no to that. I don't think people are going to say, nope, we don't want to, we need to take responsibility for ours, for our kind, for our people. And if we suddenly say, just because you're born to an American off American soil, you're no longer an American, that evades the responsibility, especially of these, idiot soldiers that are going around getting all these women pregnant. But also at the same time, I don't think that we should be saying to people, you were born and raised here, you bleed and breathe American, and you're not an American. That just doesn't make sense either. So I don't think this is the way to tackle the issue. I think the way to tackle the issue is, let's just deport all the people that are illegal. I'm fine with that. Get everybody together that's illegal and say, look, your time's up. It would have happened eventually. Any of us that go to any other country, if we're there illegally, we're all going to think, one day they're going to catch me and I'm probably going to get sent away. Fair enough. I mean, that should happen. And then we could fix the immigration system and make sure that people flow into the country in a regulated and in a regulated way. And let's just attack that and deal with that. And then we'll go and attack babies. But I don't know why we want to attack babies. What's the point of telling a little baby, like, oh, you're not a citizen, kid? I don't care if you were born here and raised here. You're not a citizen. We're sticking it to you. That'll show you. Who does it show? It just shows that we're, that we like to alienate our own. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's how this will play out in court. Who knows which way it will go, but I think that the Supreme Court will think this thoroughly through and realize that it could be disastrous to turn away Americans who've been raised here and love America. There could be some real serious issues with that. Tried a crazy diet that promised the impossible, like those pills that claim you never have to exercise or watch what you eat. Just take this pill and watch the pounds melt away. Or those shakes that promise you'll lose 50 pounds in a month. And don't get me started on those weird patches claiming to melt fat off without lifting a finger. We've all heard the scams, right? That's why I trust Lean, because it's the real deal. Here's why. Lean was created by a medical doctor and university researcher. It's not for those last few vanity pounds, 5 here, there, 10 here. No, this is for serious weight loss. The clinical team behind Lean even says, if you only have a few pounds to lose, this isn't for you, just hit the gym. But if you're someone who's struggled to lose meaningful weight and you're not into injections, those work, yeah, but they can have side effects, and a lot of people do not like needles. Lean works by targeting your weight loss smarter, very similar to the injections. It helps maintain healthy blood sugar. It controls appetite and cravings, which is key. That is key. Just eat less. But how can you when you're just starving and craving food? Lean also burns fat by converting it into energy. So if you're ready to lose weight without the gimmicks, here's your chance. Get 20% off your first order with code KIM20 at takelean.com. That's Kim20 at takelean.com. Try it. You will not regret it. Thanks for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show. If you want to watch the full show, visit KimIversonShow.com. The show airs every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, it's KimIversonShow.com. See you there.